Hey y'all, this is Michael Wright, you know, the actor. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be on the air with the lovely Miss Desirae Benson. Hope you can be there. Peace.
And you started acting in 1979, I believe, when you played in the movie The Wanderers. But there's a history before that, I know. So how did you even become involved in acting? Like, what sparked your internal desire to do so?
I couldn't do nothing else. No, quite honestly, I was a huge admirer of certain actors and certain acting styles, and I actively pursued an outlet or rather a venue, to acquire my craft, as it were, that was commensurate with the tradition of acting that I aspired to, if you will. So, quite honestly, I was quite conflicted in my later teenage years, as to what I wanted to do. Did I want to write poetry? Did I want to dance? Did I want to sing? I don't know, But it occurred to me that I could act all of those things. I could, sort of, paint, do my painting, do my poetry, play a musical instrument, all within the context of being a thespian, being an actor. And so it all sort of crystallized for me at a certain point, and I was actively pursuing avenues of study. And it just turned out that my mom, who's my inspiration, my lifelong guiding light, had a vintage clothing store called Jezebel, which was eponymous. It was the name of our restaurant as well. But it was on Columbus Avenue in New York, in 72nd Street, and around the block from the store lived a great acting teacher named Lee Strasberg and his wife, Anna Strasberg. And she happened to happen upon my mom's store and fell in love with the white linens there. And my mom just happened to mention to her that she had a son who was an aspiring actor. And, one thing led to another. She asked my mom to have me get in touch with her, and she invited me down to the Institute, Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. And before I knew it, I was enrolled there in a work study program. I mopped floors, I answered phones, I did all kinds of tasks, in exchange for my classes. And my classes were, I had about 2 or 3 a week. They were 4 hours at a time, and so it pretty much occupied my entire schedule. Diurnal and nocturnal. And it just sort of became my life. And before I knew it, she had me on a complete scholarship. I didn't have to work or do anything in exchange for my classes. I just had to show up. And that's how I learned my craft, and that's how I became an actor.
That is amazing. So how long after that, Michael, did you star in the movie The Wanderers? How long after you were done with school?
Oh, I suppose about 3.5 years, 4 years. I think I studied straight before I got my first large film, which was Philip Kaufman's film The Wanderers, about neighborhood gangs in the Bronx, and I just showed up there, and he had my picture on the wall, and he thought I was like Marlon Brando.
Awesome.
My idol. So I sort of configured my acting style, my tradition. After that, I mean, what is described as a method actor, relying on basic internal sources to realize external results, if you will.
Yeah, and you do an absolutely amazing job. I mean, everything from your persona and the way that you captivate the audience is absolutely incredible. Just watching, you on screen. And that kind of leads me to this next question, because you talked about, how you got your start in New York and your mom's store, Jezebel's, and how you got started with Lee Strasberg Theater. So you were born in New York, but your family was rooted in Berkeley County, South Carolina, St. Stephen to be exact, right?
Yeah.
So how did those Southern roots help shape who you were growing up and in your acting, or did they?
Well, no, it entirely colored my perspective, about certain elements of society. And my mother's relationship with Malcolm X, who I recall clearly as a child, he would be in my apartment, and my mom's apartment. I would, he wore three-piece suits with cuffs, and I would be down on the floor digging through the cuffs of his pants and picking out pennies and that sort of thing. But
oh wow.
But the whole civil rights thing had a great deal to do with my emotional and psychological connection to acting. If you'd asked me early on what it is that I'm doing, and oftentimes people would ask me what I'm doing. What are you doing here, Mike? I said, I'm freeing black folks.
Mm-hmm.
Freeing black folks. I'm using art as a mechanism, to enhance our reality, if you will, and to express it. And that comes out, I would hope that is evident in the characters that I play and in the way that I portray them, if you will. There's a whole sort of socio-psychological dynamic that underlies and underplays everything that I do. I mean, it's political in a sense. It is political.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with you with that. Yeah, definitely. And I was wondering that, with you, because you seem to pull a lot of emotion out of yourself and every character that you play.
Hold on, Desirae.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Something was bothering my voice, but okay now. No, could you repeat what you said, please?
Yeah, so what I was saying is that, I noticed that with you and your acting that you seem to pull a lot of emotion out of, the characters and being able to portray that for everybody to see. It's a natural thing for you.
Well, it is a natural thing, but it's also a pointedly aspirational thing too. I mean, I aspire to do that kind of work, and I aspire to, study that kind of Stanislavski's Moscow art theater system, that was sort of embodied by certain actors, that I admired, and the work that Lee Strasberg taught, and other teachers like Stella Adler and Luther Adler, rather, and Stella. Essentially, it requires that kind of focus,
Absolutely.
You work from the general, if you will, to the specific, and then you go moment for moment, beat for beat, and try to imbue every jot and tittle of that performance with true, honest, emotional content, if you will.
Yeah, well, that definitely comes across, on the screen, Thinking back to, the Five Heartbeats from 1991, where you played Eddie King. It's an iconic and amazing movie written by Robert Townsend.
Let me correct you. That's not Eddie King. That's Eddie King.
Eddie King. Eddie King.
Eddie King. Ain't nobody saying like old Eddie King.
So let me get it right. You played Eddie Kane, and it was an iconic.
Everybody said that's the real way to say their name, Eddie Kane, because Robert Townsend and Keenan Allen Webb, they wrote it. There was Eddie King. But I gave it a kind of southern slang.
That's right. Color, you sure did. What's your favorite line from the movie? What's your favorite line?
Oh, I guess when Eddie tells Flash, how does it feel to be me? How does it feel to be me? After Flash has taken over the role of lead singer of the group,
Yeah.
I think, but I mean, there's so many because I ad-libbed, it is a function of my approach to acting that I tend to improvise and ad-lib a great many things that aren't there on the page and that aren't there in the script,
Right.
I just come up with these things, that seem to be appropriate to me.
That's right, you do, and I could tell that. And because you played Eddie Kane, are you still in contact with some of the other cast members?
Oh yeah, by all means.
That's awesome.
I remain very close to Robert Townsend, who I attribute and I ascribe rather the degree of my notoriety to his having cast me to play that character. I mean, interesting enough, when he and Keenan were writing that film, they weren't writing that character for me, but they were writing it for Denzel.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and my mom had a restaurant, as I said, eponymously named Jezebel as well, and Robert was there with a date one night, and after he'd finished his meal, I invited him over to my apartment, which was just 2 or 3 blocks from the restaurant. And I wanted to screen a film that I'd done in Japan called Bedtime Eyes, and a couple of years prior to that, and he watched the film with his companion, and he said, Mike, look, man, that's one of the most amazing acting I've ever seen. And
wow.
I've got this movie that I'm writing now. Me and Keenan are writing now. Keenan is his writing partner, and he said, Mike, I don't know, man. I'm writing this part, man. We're writing it to Denzel, but man, you're the guy. You're the guy.
That's right.
So we're gonna start on this, he said, in about 6 months from now. And I said, well, yeah. And my mom liked to say that's night talk, But he said, Mike, I'll get in touch with you in 6 months. And I just forgot about it. But lo and behold, 6 months passed. And Robert did call me up. And he said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Of course, I'm an action man. I'm always ready."
I love it. That is so awesome.
So he placed the script in my hands, and I did what I do usually, which is just mow through it and score it like a piece of like a movement in a symphony, you know.
Yeah.
Moment for moment, beat for beat, working, you know, from the general to the, you know, the specific, you know, and hitting every note, you know, with every jot and tittle, you know, every section, the brass, the drums, you know, the bass, whatever, you know, it requires. I look at it. My approach is musical, you know. It's like, you know, I jazz. It's like Miles Davis.
Oh my gosh, you would play the most amazing Miles Davis.
I've been aspiring to do it for years, you know.
Oh my gosh, you would play an amazing Miles Davis.
Well, thank you very much, Desirae. You pass that on from your lips to God's ears.
That's right. That's right. The universe speaks because, oh my goodness. You know, and it's funny that you say that, Michael, because I was looking at something just the other day about Miles Davis and his life. And the first impression I got just from watching it and how he would play and how he was very much into like himself and going within, it just reminded me so much of how you could convey that on the screen.
He is the epitome of cool.
Cool.
He's the coolest thing there is. Yes, my Davis going right there for you. He epitomizes the essence of cool, you know. And, I wanted to sort of convey that sensibility, if you will, in my performances as an actor. You know, I mean, having that depth, you know, having that breadth, you know, and, you know, having that improvisational capacity as any competent jazz musician does, you know, to step out and beyond the lines of, you know, of the contours of what's written. You can embellish on it, you know, and improvise it. That's what jazz musician does, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I could definitely see that, you know, happening. And I'm thinking about this, too. When we think about movies or shows that we've seen, we all have our favorites. So especially when it comes to, like, our own personal choices, we like what we like. So when you look back on your history and all of the many, many characters that you played, which one is your favorite? Do you have one? And if you do, why? Why is that one your favorite?
Well, of course I love the Five Heartbeats, you know.
Yeah.
It was a breakout movie, and it ultimately became perhaps the number one favorite, you know, by general consensus, favorite film of African American audiences.
Absolutely.
In the 90s and so forth, you know. But I also am very fond of the performance, rather not so much of a performance, but the film Sugar Hill, which was written for me, it was initially called Skeezers.
Oh my God, I loved you in that movie. That is one of my favorite movies.
Thanks so much, my dear. It was written by a fellow named Barry Michael Cooper, who wrote New Jack City, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
And he wrote that character for me. And the way I got that movie made after Barry had presented it to me was I was in a place in Union Square in Manhattan called a coffee shop, sitting down with my best friend, O.L. Duke, God rest his soul, since passed, but a very fine actor. And in walked Wesley with an entourage of about 10 people. And I just stood up and just, buttonholed him by the lapel and said, "Come in, man. Look, I got a movie, man, and I want you to make it with me." He said, "What? Oh, well, wait a minute. Tell me about it." I said, all right, I'll tell you about it. We got in the limousine, left half the entourage behind, and I ran it down to him. And at the time, Wesley had a 3-picture deal, I think, with Fox, or whichever studio it was. And I got Wes to commit to making that film and making it one of the films, that was a byproduct of his deal with the studio. And that's how that film got made,
Wow. So that character was one of your favorite characters. And you have so many movies, so that was one of my favorites too.
No, absolutely. That was that was a perennial New York City story. This is where I come from. I was born in Queens General Hospital, but I was conceived in Harlem, and I moved back to Manhattan. So that a lot of that is commensurate with my own personal journey, if you will.
Yeah, I definitely understand, and it was perfect for you. I mean, you played one hell of a role. I mean, everything was just from the start to the finish. I mean, wow, just wow.
You're very kind. You're too kind. Yeah. I improvised the whole film. I mean, it was directed by a fellow named Leone Chasso, and I was like, the film was, as it was written, I have a tendency to go off script, and so I'll pick up the cue, and I'll just the cue on the top, and then I'll just color it all in with about 12 paragraphs, and then review your cue at the end. And so I met Leon coming up the stairs in the building we were shooting one time, and we were on the roof in Harlem, and I said, "Leon, what are you doing?" And he was scribbling on a notepad. And I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing something for Wesley, man. You're killing him." I had to write something for Wesley, man. You are killing him, man. I don't know it. I'm killing him, man. Leon is from Cuba. He's from Havana, but he was a director, and I got to write something for Wesley, man. You're killing him.
You are amazing with your accents and everything. That is awesome. That's incredible. Like the history and how things came about for you. It's really interesting. I mean, a lot of things to me, it's that universal energy, that synchronicity that brings things together on purpose. Not even trying. It just happens. So
it's not serendipity.
Serendipity. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything, or if there were anything, thinking back, that you could do over in your life, from acting to travel to personal? If there's anything that you could do over in your life, what would it be?
No, Desirae. I mean, I've done everything I've ever wanted to. I've been everywhere. I speak 5 languages.
Yes.
Watashi wa Nihongo nasa kote arimasu. Saya percakapan bahasa Indonesia. Moi, je parle français aussi. Yo hablo español. And a body. That's Swahili.
I remember when we spoke last week, you mentioned you spoke all those languages. So
yeah, I did.
Yeah, that is amazing. What's something else people might not know about you?
I love to fish.
You said you love fish?
I love to fish.
Oh, you love to fish. Okay.
Yeah, no, my grandfather was a South Carolina woodsman. As you said, we all came from Berkeley. South Carolina, St. Stephen's, to be specific. Yeah, just down the road from Monk's Corner, and just a swing and miss from Cross County. And my grandfather spent all of his years trapping and fishing in the Santee Swamp. He was a swamp man, and I guess and he also built a still or two as well. Maybe that explains my predilection from time to time for a sip or two here and there. But he was a fisherman, and he hunted and trapped squirrels and things like that. There would always be something like that in my grandmother's freezer. A coon, a raccoon.
Right.
Those kinds of things. So I mean that became an indelible part of my internal sensibility, if you will, and it led me all around the world. I mean, I scuba dived all around the world. I fished all around the world. I mean, I lived with the Maasai in Tanzania and dove over there, off of Dar es Salaam, and then lived in Dakar, and Senegal, and I don't know,
You've been everywhere. You've been everywhere and done a multitude of things that people probably, are going to think about doing and never do.
Yeah, you could say that, I'm writing
I want to swim with dolphins. I've never swam with dolphins. Had an opportunity, but never was able to do that, especially when I lived in Japan. Just never got a chance. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, あなたは日本語はなぜかご理解できますか?
See, there you go with the Japanese.
So this.
I told you all I know is arigato gozaimasu and konnichiwa.
No, 私の恋人、彼は日本人です。My old girlfriend was Japanese, so I mean, one of those sort of things you kind of pick up,
Yeah, I can imagine. With all the places that you've been. What's the biggest life lesson, Michael, that you've learned along the way? I know there are tons, because you think about people's life, and I look back on things that I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but I mean, what up until now, what has been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned, whether it's your personal life or your acting, just about the world in general?
Well, go everywhere. Go everywhere and do everything that you possibly can, I mean, and enrich your experience. That's the best way to be the best that you can be. Just leave nothing to chance. Focus yourself and just go there and just do it.
And just do it. I love that.
I had a fellow who was a good friend of my mom's and was a companion of the model Lauren Hutton back in the 80s and stuff. He was a commodities broker. I said, and I had a little small windfall of, a couple of $1,000 in cash. And I said, Bob, I've got some dough, man. Well, what's the best way that you think I could possibly invest it? And he asked me, he said, do you have a map of the world? Do you have a globe? A globe? I said, yeah. He said, well, you pick the last place that you can ever imagine going, and just go there. And that's the best investment you can make. So I chose Papua New Guinea and lived with the Asmat and Dani tribes there, you know.
Wow.
Those were the people that ate Michael Rockefeller back in the 1960s. That was very stimulating, if you will. rock,
oh my gosh.
You know, and I was like, oh, hey, okay, this is exciting.
Wow. Well, I have not been to as many places as you've been. But I told you I was born in Korea, lived in Japan, lived in Europe and in Norway, and went to London, and the place that I told you I wanted to go. I mean, I would love to go to Africa.
I told you my best friend lives in Norway.
Yes, Oslo, yeah.
And my daughter is going to school at University College London, you know, where she just received a master's degree in fine arts.
That is awesome.
And I have a fondness for, as we discussed previously, I have a fondness for bulgogi and kauri.
Yes. Oh my God, it's my favorite. I even got my son. My son loves it as well. I mean, and speaking of Norway too, did you ever notice when you were there, they have the biggest strawberries. I remember going out with some family friends. We were out on the fjord out there, and they had a cabin, and we went to, we were in the woods, and I remember she brought out this big plate just full. I don't know if she got them from the woods, but they were huge, the biggest strawberries I've ever seen.
Mama, well, they have an amazing agricultural tradition, you know, specific kind of agricultural tradition in Scandinavia, you know, where they specialize on certain things, you know, and when they're focused on it, they just cultivate it and magnificently, if you will, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed my time there, and I wish I had taken the time to learn more of the language. I think I remember it's Kanduleke, and I think that meant, can you come out and play, because I wanted to play with the kids in the neighborhood. But that's all I remember from being in Norway.
I lived in Copenhagen. That was the first place I ever traveled to, actually. You know, when I graduated from high school, my mom bought me a round trip ticket to Europe, to Denmark, and I arrived there. And the first day I arrived there, I was bundled up and, you know, all onto a 60-foot sailboat, you know, a ketch called the Wimbrel, you know, and just sailed all around Jutland and Zealand and to an island called Bornholm, and I learned how to sail, you know, and
that's amazing.
Amazing things, you know.
There's so much to see in the world, and I like what you said. You know, when I asked you, you know, what the biggest lesson you learned along the way, is to just do everything you can, travel, you know, do what you can, because, and I try to tell people that too, you know, because, you know, you don't want to live in a bubble where, you know, the only thing that you're doing is what's right in front of you. There's so much out there to see, so many cultures to learn about. It's just amazing. The world is an amazing place.
And it's why I try to go the extra mile to learn 10 phrases or 20 words a night, you know, in that particular language where I'm going, you know, that is associated with that culture, you know, because people appreciate that.
They do. Cultural awareness is huge.
They do appreciate that, you know.
Yeah, they definitely do.
When I was in Tanzania, you know, and I was living with the Maasai, you know, and I was, of course, you know, I was all gotten up, you know, and I had my Maasai outfit on and everything, you know, and the Maasai were calling me Maasai. They called me Amakushinda and Kikalanga, you know, that meant victorious, because I had trained myself to use the Maasai, to throw the Maasai spear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we went out a couple of afternoons, you know, literally hunting for lions, you know, because tradition, if you will. And it's very interesting, the way they do it. I was with about 5 or 6 guys, and they usually do it with about 30 people, because it really takes a village. No pun intended, to actually hunt a lion, and they usually surround it, and they begin to hop up and down and mimic the lions. And then the lion, will just like check out the circle, and then it'll usually eye just one of those Morani. Morani is the term for young Maasai warriors, and an Imse is an elder. But the lion will just focus on one of those guys, and that guy will know it. And he just hand his spear off to the guy next to him and just walk on off. Nobody thinks he's a punk. So it's amazing.
That is so funny. My goodness. Wow. So I want to ask you, too, because those are some great stories. So what can we expect from you in the future?
Oh, I don't know. Look for surprises.
But you have been talking for an hour.
Hey, come on, guy. Give me a break.
You hear him?
Yeah, of course. He said we're talking for hours. I mean, just sit down, little man.
I know, right?
I can still hear him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Getting back. Go ahead. Okay, I'm up for a new picture.
You're up for
Jack. You don't know Jack.
You don't know Jack, okay?
Yeah, it's I think it's loosely based on the exploits of Dr. Jack Kevorkian.
Ah, okay.
In the back in the 90s and late 80s and so forth. And then there's also another featured and sort of series that I've been working around the edges on, something called Stitch, which is about a fellow who investigates cases of organ theft, if you will.
Ah, okay.
Interesting,
That is interesting.
Yeah, and I shot a pilot for it, and we're just still shopping it around, seeing how that works out, and then
whatever you're up to is going to be incredible. We already know that.
It'll be interesting, but as I tell actors, the greatest sin an actor can commit is to fail to be interesting.
Oh, I love that. To fail to be interesting.
That's the greatest, an actor's greatest sin is to not be interesting. And I always try to make my characters interesting. I want you to be riveted. I want you to wonder what's going on behind those eyes, what's taking behind that forehead.
That's right. I love that.
What's going on? I want you to think along with me. Go on this sort of internal journey with me. I want you to sort of see that character thinking and feeling, if you will.
And that's part of the journey.
Little minute things that you do that makes a performance, a characterization compelling.
That's right. It makes you remember. I mean, remember way after the movie or the performance is over, Yeah,
you see, when I have a background in theater, and the thing I longed for most being on the stage was that moment of silence where I just knew that audience was so captivated that I could hear the chairs creaking as they bent in.
Oh, man.
To focus.
Focus.
You know, then that was the most fulfilling moment, you know, and you can feel it, you know.
You can feel that energy.
Yes, it's an incredible sense of, I don't even know what to say, you know, je ne sais quoi, you know, it's incredible.
Kind of like, it's like euphoric, you know, it's a natural feeling that, well, it's a feeling that you're able to be in sync with everybody.
Yeah, you captivated that audience, you know, and you unified them, you know, you bonded them, you know, and they're bounded with you, you know, I mean, they're living and waiting and hanging on your every motion, your every utterance, sound, if you will.
Yeah, I know that has to be powerful and empowering while you're in the middle, in that moment, you know.
And that's the thing that I cherish the most about working on the stage. You know, is that immediate sort of that immediate sense of gratification, if you will. You know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. And it sounds amazing to be able to experience something like that with so many people.
The same thing happens, you know, when you're making a film too. In a sense, you know, when you've got a crew and a cast, and that crew has seen and heard everything, you know, mundane, mediocre kind of thing, and when those people shut up and they're paying attention, I mean, that is really, really overwhelming.
Powerful. That's some powerful stuff, Michael. So I'm thinking too, because you have, like I said, an amazing history and had amazing life and doing so many different things, and you're on the verge of working with some other things that you're doing that are on the way. So are there any parting words you'd like to share with, you know, my audience and the magazine's audience and just in general?
I don't know, you know, just make up your mind, do what you want to do, and then commit yourself to it entirely. I mean, and love what you're doing, and it'll love you back.
Awesome. I love that, Michael. And it has been an absolute sheer pleasure talking with you. I mean, last time we talked was amazing. This time was amazing because you're so inspiring and the conversation was enlightening and everything that you've done. I mean, I'm just fascinated by your life. So much gratitude to you for taking the time to even make this happen.
The pleasure has been all mine, Desirae.
Thank you.